You're listening to the Pens Nation radio show on thepensnation.com. Follow us on Twitter at thepensnation.
All right, and welcome to another edition of the Pens Nation radio show, October 20th, when we're recording this, and it's crazy that October is almost coming to an end already as the Pittsburgh Penguins 4 games in to the regular season. Mike Johnston coaching 4 games with his Penguins team. First NHL coaching gig. It's gone pretty well for the most part. We'll recap some of the last 2 games. We only got to.
It's weird, Andy. I mean,
it's a strange schedule. Yeah,
it's absolutely weird. We've been about a month into the season almost now, and we've played 4 games. So things will start to pick up here shortly. But I mean, right now it feels pretty bare.
Yeah. That's Nick Richter. I'm Andy Hughes. By the way, thanks for joining us here on the Pens Nation radio show. And yeah, like you said, it feels kind of like almost like a football schedule where, you know, the Penguins only played, Thursday, Saturday, then Thursday, Saturday again. Now they'll play Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. So they're getting kind of an extra game there. Big one at that on Wednesday night with the Flyers in town. We'll get to that. But first, let's talk about the last 2 games. The Penguins playing the Dallas Stars on Thursday night at Consol Energy Center, and it looked like it was going to be a big win, especially in that first period where the Penguins really had all the momentum. The Stars were taking a ton of penalties and giving that dominant Penguins power play a lot of good looks, and they cashed in on the power play. But boy, the Dallas Stars, they really stole that one at the end, and that one was definitely a tough first NHL loss for Mike Johnston, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, everything kind of went south in that game after the Pascal Dupuis injury. Whenever he left the game, it felt like the heart and soul of the team was gone. And from that point on, it just wasn't the same team. They went into the locker room in the second period, came back out, and it just didn't seem like they had that same oomph and that same pizzazz going on. And they didn't finish the game very well. Crosby took a penalty at the end there that gave them a power play, and they end up potting one in with like 2.9 seconds left. But up until that Dupuis injury, things were rolling pretty smoothly, and it was just a real disappointing ending to what was a really good start. So I guess we got that first loss out of the way for Mike Johnston, but you know, it didn't seem to set well with that team. They ended up bouncing back the next game.
Yeah, they certainly did, and you mentioned the Pascal Dupuis injury where he got cross-checked by Alex Goligoski, then got hit with the puck, and then later said that Evgeny Malkin just told him to lay there, so that's what he did. He was taken on the stretcher, gave the crowd the thumbs up, and returned on Saturday night against the New York Islanders, which was a big matchup. The Islanders were undefeated at the time, and I think really this was just great to see such a great response from the team after such a terrible loss, you know, especially that being Johnston's first loss. You never really know how a team's going to bounce back from that, and they really bounced back the right way. They played a really hard game. They got that 5-on-3 where Malkin was able to cash in, and then Patrick Hornquist, what a story he's been. I think he's tied for the league lead in shots right now, and he's up there in points as well. So just a fantastic story there, and just a great overall team effort there in that win against the Islanders.
Yeah, Hornquist has been on fire. What's he got now? 8 points in the first 4 games. He's averaging 2 points a game, and he's on pace for like 580 shots or something crazy this year. And will he hit that? Probably not, but he's absolutely looking great right now. The Islanders game was a bit of a surprise to me. I expected that to be a much harder game than it was. Not saying it was a cakewalk or anything for the Penguins, but they had I mean, the Islanders have just been steamrolling teams lately. They look really good. They're a much different team than they were last year. And, you know, like I just thought they would give the Pens fits. But they didn't. I mean, they kept it close. But, it just wasn't the game I expected out of them. I was shocked, though, to see that Pascal Dupuis was back for that game. Because if that happened to me, man, I'd be gone. I'd be like, I'd retire. I'd be out on a beach somewhere sipping mimosas. I mean, just I would be gone. I'd log off hockey forever.
Yeah, I was a little surprised myself too, but at the same time, after that had happened on what was that, Thursday night, I had heard that it was somewhat of precautionary that they took him off, so I wasn't really sure. But great to see Pascal Dupuis back, and like you said earlier, I mean that guy's a huge part of this team. They really missed him last year, and so here we are. The Penguins 3-1 to start the season, pretty solid. They'll be facing the good old Philadelphia Flyers for the first time this year on Wednesday night, 8 o'clock game. We all love those, right? On the
It's a Wednesday night rivalry.
Yeah, and that'll be on the NBC Sports Network. The good thing is Doc Emrick, Nettie Olczyk will be announcing that one. And hey, a big story: Pierre Maguire makes his return after, I guess, being rejected.
Oh boy,
by the Penguins. I don't know how he's going to react on television. He might act a little different. I'm not sure.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing how he reacts to that. Probably pretty professionally, but
yeah,
knowing kind of how quirky and how odd the guy is, I wouldn't be shocked if he kind of threw him under the bus a little bit too. So we'll see. I mean, that was one of the dates on my calendar I had circled, just that first NBC game, just to see how Pierre would react to the whole thing. I mean, he seemed pretty confident he had the job all summer.
Oh yeah.
And then he didn't get it, so, I mean, maybe there's a little bit of resentment there. I'm expecting him to be pretty professional, but maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit of unprofessionalism in Pierre that might just seep out Wednesday night. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, you never know.
you don't ever know. I mean, that's what's awesome about live TV. I mean, emotion plays such a big factor in the whole thing. So, I mean, yeah, especially being that close and not getting the job, I'm sure he'll pretty much keep himself in check, but you never know. The other thing I'm looking forward to is to seeing if the Penguins play any differently, kind of emotionally, under Mike Johnson against the Flyers than they did under Dan Bylsma and Michel Therrien before that. Hopefully they do, because they haven't been very good against the Flyers at home, have they?
No, they haven't. And like you said, the emotion, that's been a real big problem. For a long time now. I mean, it's something that does need to change, and the Penguins will be wearing their new third alternate jerseys, by the way, as well on Wednesday night, so that should be fun. But yeah, I mean, the emotion, that's always a big thing with the Flyers, who've kind of started off a little bit, they're up to a sluggish start so far, 1-2-2, but we saw this last year too, and the team fired Laviolette and brought in Berube, and they still made the playoffs by the end of the season, so I don't really think there's any panic there by any means, but this is a team that is really struggling on the back end, especially because once Kimmo Timonen went down, I thought, man, I mean those are tough shoes to replace. I mean they signed Michael Del Zotto, but I mean it's really hard to fill the shoes of a guy like Timonen, who's he was one of the heart and soul guys on that defense.
Yeah, he's one of the leaders on that team, and that was a big loss for them. I'm not sure if he'll ever play again, actually.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird because he signed that contract just recently, too. So, yeah, it's another one of those contracts that doesn't look like it's going to get fulfilled for the Flyers, much like Chris Pronger. It's a defense thing maybe for them. It's cursed. But, it's a big blow to that team, and it's going to be one of those hard things to bounce back from. A lot of Pens fans are kind of clamoring, like, if they kept getting off to this slow start and not winning any games, how long would it be until they, try to hire Dan Bylsma? Wouldn't that be interesting?
Boy, it would be. That would be something else. Dealing with the whole Yager and Talbot, Would
this be bigger than those two things combined?
I don't know. Well,
because it's not like Bylsma's a terrible coach.
No,
I mean,
he's
he
not.
has his flaws for sure, and that's why he lost his job here in Pittsburgh. But he's done a good job coaching teams, and maybe he does a good job with another team somewhere else. Philadelphia would be a good landing spot. I think Toronto would be too. But if he's looking to really get back at his old team, why wouldn't you kind of contemplate the idea of coaching for the Flyers? Yeah, because that they're going to spend money to give you the players that you want.
Oh, yeah.
So that's not an issue. It's if you have the right players and the right coach in place or not. But
if he runs that system, I don't know if the defenseman with Philly right now would be ideal for it,
I don't know if any defenseman in
yeah, that's true.
in the league is ideal for that system, honestly. Yoey said it before on the show. guys have talked him off the record about you make one mistake in Bausma's system, that puck ends up in the back of your net. And, these are players playing all throughout the league now kind of saying that stuff. So I'm not sure defensively any team is kind of up for that, that system. But it is, it's a pretty proven system, good offensively, very tenacious. But, yeah, it would just be really interesting to see if that's where he ends up.
Yeah, certainly would be a huge story here in Pittsburgh. But getting back to that emotion, in these Flyers and Penguins games, Josh Yohe speaking of Yohe, he had a great article about Steve Downey, who basically challenged the entire New York Islanders bench, and he's quickly becoming like a favorite here. And and I understand why. I mean, he's a guy that Penguins have kind of lacked a guy like him the past few years, and I think he's another guy who could really step into the spotlight in a game like this against the Flyers, who also is his former team, so looking to get revenge on them a little bit since things didn't really go too well there. I mean, some of that was probably his fault, but at the same time, he definitely has something to prove against his former team.
Absolutely. James Connolly and I write about him in the hot take tomorrow that comes out tomorrow morning, but I absolutely love players like Steve Downey. I love them when they're on our team. They just annoy the crap out of you whenever they're on the other team. But it's one of those kind of players that the Pens have lacked since they've lost Matt Cook to free agency to the Minnesota Wild. They haven't really had that really annoying pest factor, and now they got it. And he's in everybody's face all the time. He was in faces of Getzlaf and Perry in the Anaheim game. Like you said, that Islanders game, he challenged the entire bench. What was the game? Was it the Toronto game? Where they were taking a delayed offside, and he ends up just shooting a puck in the net?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think
just
so.
Just little things like that, like where he plays with just that little bit of an edge that just annoys the crap out of you, and you just, as a player, you're just like, shut up already, get out of here, you suck, but he's under your skin. The Pens have lacked that for a long time, and I absolutely love the fact that they have some of that grit this year.
And he was annoying the hell out of Ryan Getzlaf as well in the opener.
Absolutely.
Just kind of laughing at him, and it's just good to see that somebody like that is on our side. And it's a little different now because Steve Downey can actually play hockey. We've had some guys that have been agitators a little bit, but they can't really play hockey. So I think it's good to see a guy like that, like Downey. And like you said, that's pretty much what Matt Cook was. I mean, Matt Cook was an annoying player, but he could also chip in offensively, and Downey can do that as well. So good to see Steve Downey on this Penguins team.
It's one thing to be annoying and not really have any talent like a John Scott. Mean, that's just being annoying for. He does have a goal this year. That's one more than I got in my career, so I'll give him that. But I mean, the guy really serves absolutely no purpose outside of being annoying. It's one thing to back up your pestiness on the ice by actually being able to score goals. That makes you even more pesty because, now, not only are you chirping him the entire game and you're playing physical against him and kind of agitating him that way, but whenever you could do that and you could score, you've pissed them off to a whole new level because that's the one thing they really don't want to happen. They don't want you to score against them, and there you are chirping them. You've got the best of them kind of physically and mentally at that point. So absolutely love that kind of player. It's so psychological, and it could absolutely get a team off their game in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it certainly could. And speaking of pesty defenseman Robert Bertuzzo.
The pesky sends.
Returning to practice this afternoon, and the Penguins did send Andrew Ebbett and Scott Harrington back to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. So, a lot of people are talking about the whole Harrington thing, why he was up here, and it was a little bit confusing. I don't think anyone will doubt that, but he's back to Wilkes-Barre. He's going to get to play. Obviously didn't play up here in Pittsburgh, but I think the real interesting question now is when Bertuzzo is ready to come back to the lineup, which could be soon if they're already sending Ebbett and Harrington back. Does Bertuzzo play? And if he does, who sits? I think there's only two candidates there, and that's Rob Scuderi and Simone Dupre. So